Very interesting decision-making coming out from these two teams now. So, Denial, do they look as strong as you expected them to coming into this, Yannick?
I think we really have to see Denial play either against another team or against EnVy when they really reset their minds. I think it'd be really interesting going into this game to see if EnVy is really composed themselves and able to put those last 3 games behind them. I'd say it's too early to tell.
So as a coach, how would you try to rally your players back into the right mindset after losing the first set and losing this first game?
I would just say to everyone to clear their minds. Obviously, everybody tilts at some point.
That's
so
what you need to do. You get Kabom to give you a massage just before the game, totally. Is that what you needed when you were playing?
Definitely helps when you have massages. I'd rather have a massage from Skeeledon, you know, the deep tissue, get it really right in there, get all the knots out.
What about you, Yannick? Who was the player to massage you when you needed it?
I think Jigs gave me a couple massages when he was the coach for TSM.
Do you give him massages now that you're the coach for his soul?
Yeah, I do have to return the favor, yeah.
Damn it. Feels bad, man. Do you like doing it at least?
I don't mind.
It's okay. As long
I've
as you
been told I have good hands.
Oh.
You hear that?
I've got nothing.
Yannick has good hands.
Got nothing to follow up on that. Tully definitely will, though. Well, Skeeledon definitely got a lot of work cut out for him here. We said that in the first set, obviously up against Sora as well, like he's going to be a big focal point. He still is in this set as well. I mean, we saw him actually go aggressive on Hurriwind a couple of times as well. Did find 1 or 2 picks, or at least force Hurriwind out of the fight, but it wasn't enough.
Not at all. It wasn't the same pace that Anister was playing the Alkwang or the Thor. If he wants to play these hyper carry gods, he needs to find the right characters in his side lanes as well as his mid lane to be able to set himself up. You pick Alkwang for a reason to try to carry, but the rest of his supporting cast just hasn't been able to really find the kills.
It almost feels like lane dominance seems to be a real issue with EnVy here so far, because they keep picking matchups that aren't going to give them wave clear at all, which loses them control of the jungle.
I would say so. The jungle presence for the Cupid in the early 2v2 skirmishes pre-level 5 is a little bit difficult, especially how it's not the easiest thing in the world to hit the heart bomb. You're trying to rely on the speed of the projectile, but at the same time, you have to find a way to really synergize together, and right now, EnVyUs hasn't been lacking that.
Well, Denial, different story for them after a fantastic start so far with that 1-0 over EnVy. They still have a second game to play, though, so they can get 3 points, tie things up with Sora as well. And we discussed about being the group of death, and a few people online have been saying, who's calling this a group of death? It looks pretty simple so far. I mean, EnVy don't look that good.
No, there's only 2 rookies in this whole group, Oceans and Skeeledon, so everybody's coming into this group with a lot of LAN experience, so you can never really count out any specific team, which is why when we look at Enemy, even though their poor online performance, they're just going to be on point with their leadership.
Well, there's Cupid, and, well, I say Cupid, but it's Kiki in the mid lane. Will he play Cupid again is the question, I guess, overall here. And the first band coming through as well from EnVy once again. Do we expect them to try and get themselves Athena here, Tolly? We keep seeing it banned against them.
If they're going to pick the Athena this early on, maybe put Kiki on a more traditional bursty mid god, you know, such as the Ra, the Scylla, anything that just does a lot of damage, because this Cupid right now hasn't been cutting it out for them.
What's the priority thing for him here, Yannick? Is it a jungler? Is it a mid laner? Is it the Guardian they should be looking for to try and get them stable to start off with?
Well, Skeeledon seems to be really comfortable on that Ratatoskr, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him take that as a first pick. It could be the Athena as well. It just depends on whether or not Denial feels like taking that away again. And it looks like Mike isn't going to see the Athena for the rest of the tournament.
More than likely.
The way it's been going.
Yeah, everyone seems to be taking it away from him for the most part, either banning it or picking it before he has a chance to. Thor banned out as well, taking that one away from Homiefe. And to be honest, we didn't speak about him about the last set, but he had a very solid performance there, Tolly.
During the player interviews, a lot of players were talking up Homiefe, how impactful he is on the Thor. Even Anister was saying how he watches his streams, trying to learn something from him. And then Homiefe said the same exact thing about Anister, how he watches. So it's a little bit of a nice, interesting style between these two players.
Well, final ban will be Ra there. So Kiki won't have the opportunity of taking that to the mid lane this game that we'll be discussing. But EnVy have a few things available. Ratatoskr, as Yannick said, or the Athena here. And it is going to be the Athena, Tolly.
You're taking one global pressure god at the moment, and that's going to help also the soul lane. So I want to see this aggressive style coming out of CycloneSpin. Use PolarBearMike on the Athena. Try to get some sort of edge here.
Do you expect Yannick for Denial to take away Ratatoskr now, knowing that they'll probably see Skeeledon otherwise, or would you just play around it?
I don't think Denial plays too much Ratatoskr, so I think that it was smart of EnVy to first pick Athena, knowing that Denial most likely isn't going to go for the Ratatoskr, and they can pick that in the second and third picks.
Well, let's see where they're going to go here. They're hovering the Nemesis again. Homiefe had a pretty good game on that before. Obviously, they went for the Athena, Nemesis, and Raijin combo. They can't do that this game, but Shadowq is available.
Shadowq's available, but more than importantly, Bacchus is available, and Shadowq really loves this god. I think actually every support in this group really prefers Bacchus, especially Jigs.
I'm pretty sure Denial had either picked for them or banned against them in every single game online.
I mean, it's Shadowq. He just loves this god, and that's going to synergize really if they do pick up the Bacchus next pick, because picking up a Bacchus for EnVyUs here would put Athena Bacchus together, so that might be Athena jungle, Athena solo.
I was going to say,
probably not
Athena mid. I mean, Kiki, he's done it before, right?
He's done it before.
A little bit more flexibility for Envy there, but would you like to see it? Well, it is going to be the Ratatoskr hover from Envy here, and they're also looking at a Vulcan. We're actually going to see a proper mid laner here, Yannick. How do you feel about that?
A little bit more of a conventional pick. Also synergizes really well with the Ratatoskr and the Athena, so I'm really happy to see Kiki playing the Vulcan.
How does it synergize so well? Why do you think it synergizes so well?
Well, the taunt into the 3-1 combo, as well as the Ratatoskr ult into the Vulcan ult. Two very big burst damage combos right
Just
there.
confirming damage more than anything else and allows it to
You have to be so careful in the jungle if you're Denial. You don't want to get caught out of position. That Vulcan ultimate is just going to devastate you completely. But at the flip side, Denial is also looking for a lot of aggression with their composition. Bacchus is going to be able to initiate. Nemesis is going to follow up. And the burst coming out of Raijin on Hurriwind is just going to be so devastating.
On your screen there is Homiefe, and in the background you can see Drelo giving the communications of ideas of what he wants to do with that team. Oceans obviously hasn't picked up his Hunter just yet. We'll see where he goes. Played a bit of Chronos so far. How do we feel about his Chronos play? Obviously, you mentioned that he did get soloed by Vetium in that crazy trade.
So the problem with that trade was he went for an early Doom Orb. He didn't have Wingblade for the health sustain or anything like that. So he knew his damage output. Unfortunately, he missed a time stop, and then he was just half a second too late on using that rewind. Didn't really respect the Neath damage.
Well, no time stop's going to happen this game. Neath banned out, Chronos banned out. So both the Hunters here, Yannick, going to have to go to secondary picks here. Where do you expect them to go?
Well, it looks like he's been playing and favoring the magical AD carries, so I would expect to see a soul from him. It's interesting that they haven't top 3'd any of the picks for Oceans. They haven't prioritized his picks at all. So I'm curious to see whether he actually does play the Freya, because he hasn't had the opportunity to pick it at all.
I'd add into that totally as well. I mean, obviously, if we're classing here Oceans as potentially the superstar of this team, the hard carry for the team, shouldn't he be prioritizing that carry? Or is it just the depth of like Hunters at the moment so good?
Well, so far the depth is that good where he can be able to get any magical hunter that he wants, unless Denial start focusing it the first 2 bans, which is not something you really want to do in the current Smite meta. You try to elect to ban the hunters in the secondary ban phase, which is why at least Oceans has been able to get that 3rd magical hunter that's been left open, and this time it is going to be Soul. Unless Denial take it away here.
I was going to say, do you reckon we'll see Vetium take the Soul here, Yannick? It is an option for him. He has played it before.
Yeah, it looks like he is going to take it, and Vetium's definitely very comfortable on Soul, so I'm interested to see what Oceans is going to pick up here, because he hasn't played not a magical AD carry yet.
Not for a while, anyway. I mean, he has got Anher and some of the other hunters in his god pool as well. We've seen them in the past totally here. But up against Sol as well, what would you be looking to do maybe?
Something safe, something that you're not going to be really wanting to put yourself overextended to get hit by that Stellar Burst, and something to try to be careful against this Bacchus belly flop. And Medusa being hovered over is a really nice pickup because how well it synergizes with the Athena.
It does synergize with the Athena, but it does have that pick potential that you were talking about totally there. I mean, Bacchus can get on top of you and cause some issues. You're going to have to either use your dash prematurely or the purification as well. How do you feel about the picky on it?
Yeah, I'd say Medusa is one of the harder hunters to live on. It's definitely one of the least safe
Least safe.
hunters.
It's okay.
Yeah. So Nemesis, Raijin, and Bacchus all very easily are able to get their damage onto the Medusa.
And the final hover here at the moment from Denial is Najjar. Now, that would put it in the solo lane more than likely. I don't think we're going to see Nemesis solo unless it's Zaglia playing. I mean, that was a long time ago in Europe we saw that. But in the end, Benji's finished trolling us, and it will be the Vamana. Okay, on paper, Yannick, you saw game 1 as well. You can factor in who's played on these teams. Who have you got your money on for this one?
I will say game 2 goes to Denial. EnVyUs lost 3 straight, and I don't see that pattern breaking anytime soon.
I have to agree with the Yannick here. The momentum is just not on EnVyUs' side. Denial should be able to close this one out.
And we've got to try and do something here, otherwise they're going to end today on 0 points. It looks likely that Denial will win this one. Casters, what have you got to say?
Seems pretty dismal for the guys on Envy, but they have a couple of pocket picks that they've brought out. The Medusa, I remember Oceans really coming on the scene and playing this Medusa. It's very strong, but Yannick brings up a great point. A lot of the characters on Denial can just jump on him.
Yeah, not going to be too worried there, but obviously you do have that classic Athena-Medusa combo, taunt into the you got to look at us, you're going to get guaranteed stun. I've seen a fair amount of Medusa play, and the amount of times I see that combo actually go off and be effective is 1% of the very, it's been a long time since we've seen Medusa in the competitive play. She kind of dips in and out, but that idea of the perfect setup doesn't always play out how you think about it in your mind.
And what it comes down to, they talked a lot about momentum and everything. I'm going to boil it down to just jungle v jungle. And right now, Nemesis is going to repeat it, and Ratatoskr, again, you're on a character that you've got to be proactive with. We haven't seen EnVy be proactive at all, specifically Skeeledon.
I mean, I like Skeeledon on a Ratatoskr. I talked about it and how EnVy adjusted a lot of their players' play styles to better fit, who their hard carries are in Cyclone and Oceans. And so Ratatoskr brings a lot more options than an Alquang, who's really just about being a hard carry and killing you. Ratatoskr has that global ultimate, so he's going to be able to set up for ganks or protect his team. They also have the Athena. I would really like to see EnVy abuse their globals. You look at the composition for Denial. Now, Benji's going to be hard to kill, which is why I think he went for this pick of Vamana instead of the Amaterasu, but you need to use Athena. You need to use Ratatoskr. You have early game pressure in solo. Gank, invade, do something. Do not just react to what Denial does.
And see, here's the thing, and I know when it comes down to it, you just play the gods that you're good at, right? That's the whole concept of a god pool. Skeeledon, I know that he plays Ratatoskr probably better than he plays his Thor, but I view Ratatoskr and Thor as sort of they're very similar characters, but Ratatoskr is offensive and Thor is defensive, and my whole point throughout the last 3 games that I've casted about Skeeledon so far has been this guy is not an offensive star shooter. You need to put him on a setup god, a defensive god, and the Ratatoskr is just not the character.
He can fit that, though. He has the close range stun to set up for the Vulcan combo. We heard, Ionic talk about that, more about the Athena, but Ratatoskr can kind of do the same thing. And you have the globals to react to ganks or proactively gank. Sure, it's not a Hunbats or a Thor where you have a lot more disruption, but it's not an Alquang or Nemesis either, where you have to be a hard carry. It's kind of, he's a god that has a lot of options and kind of sits in between.
Yeah, exactly, and just going off of what we saw in the first set, it just didn't go that way, and hopefully EnVy can really sort of turn the rudder and divert the ship away from the iceberg, but I think the analysts had it right. EnVy is a very momentum-driven team.
And actually, CycloneSpin, I'm a little bit surprised he's contesting these, but he does secure them. And speaking of momentum, I'm not really sure why CycloneSpin went the Wrath and didn't invade. Honestly, I mean, that seems pretty clear to me. Benji went for the teleport. You're up against a Nemesis, really struggles in the early game for clearing. You had a Ravana, you had a Ratatoskr, and they just kind of don't do anything. And again, this is what I'm really worried about this team, where EnVy just don't do anything. They're just busy reacting. We saw, I think, one game where they had a very early Gold Fury. I think that was a great call, but outside of that, it's really just not been anything going on for them.
Yeah, like we brought up in the beginning of our broadcast last match, it was just, they're able to play Smite well. They know the textbook stuff, but we're not seeing we're not seeing EnVy take the first step. They're able to follow and dance right along, but they're certainly not leading.
And Cyclone getting pressured out. You never want to see this with a Robin. You really want him to dominate that lane, especially with this Wrath. You would like to see CycloneSpin, even if he doesn't invade on that first spawn, instead set up for that second spawn of the buffs. Have Benji under tower, have a couple hundred gold lead, but Benji doing a really good job of controlling Cyclone here. We see him get off a lot of poke damage onto Cyclone as he tries to clear the wave, and Cyclone hasn't been able to return it.
This is the shining light for EnVy, however. It is this duo lane. Oceans and PolarBearMike need to get off to a good start. We mentioned PolarBearMike being a little bit rattled earlier in the game, but I think PolarBearMike is one of the more stoic members on this team. He has to be with players like Skeeledon.
And this is his most comfortable god. We actually saw him play a ton of Athena back on Eager. It was his most picked god by far, his most successful god by far as well. He's incredibly comfortable with this character. He has a different feeling on the Athena, where it's really just about dashing and setting up and utilizing your global ultimate to either protect your teammates or go for those ganks on the other side of the map.
And Oceans seems to be, we always talk about, getting in players' heads and tilt or whatnot. Oceans, and of course, this is all, third person. I haven't really spoken to him about this, but Oceans just never seems rattled.
No.
Online and here at LAN, he just always seems like, hello, I'm Oceans.
I feel like when he lost that 1v1 to Vetium, he was probably like, sorry guys, I lost the 1v1. I thought I could kill him.
Yep.
What happened next time? And, I mean, that's very important to have those calming voices. Here we go. Skeeledon setting up on the right-hand side. Athena in tow as well. Benji does get his ult off, though, and that's, again, I really like this Vamana last pick as opposed to an Amaterasu, which I think is Benji's best god. It's just so hard to gank, and, you know, those 2 double globals not able to do enough.
Yeah, you know, right there, I like the idea of chasing out the ultimate, but I think Skeeledon would have been better off by himself, chase out the ultimate, and then return with the Athena in tow. But instead, EnVy front load everything. They missed their first blood attempt, but at least they've got the Vamana ult, and they can always visit back.
I agree with you, though. I would like to see him set up another gank. The teleport's down, that ultimate's going to be down as well. I mean, if you can have CycloneSpin bait himself a little bit, you know, kind of sit at the, you know, his own tower, or kind of, or maybe overextend and kind of, you know, bait Homiefe over, just utilize those globals. So EnVy doing a good job there. I mean, it doesn't work out in the end, but being proactive this game and already, I think, making adjustments based on their team composition.
Sure, but I have to see the follow-up, right? Because that is innocent until proven guilty. Nah, guilty until proven innocent for me. That is a failed gank until I see the secondary gank. Then it was a setup.
Possibly.
That's how I feel about it.
EnVy also have the Vulcan damage for, you know, turret and ultimate to confirm, and the Wrath on CycloneSpin. I would like to see EnVy try and set up a gank either in the mid or the dual lane and then go and burn it, right?
Yeah.
Rotate Cyclone over. Sure, he doesn't have teleport, so he's going to have to be very proactive. But honestly, you can let Benji take a tower if you can get a Gold Fury and, you know, a mid tower of your own if Benji's not in the fight.
It certainly makes sense. Shadowq try to make sense of everything else, and CycloneSpin trying to knock some sense into Vamana over here. Finally getting the health differential that he wants.
And no potions on Benji. Obviously, 5 minutes in, the Soul Laners not really focusing on the potions, would rather have those wards in their inventory. And now CycloneSpin is going to be able to pressure out Benji here if he can play it right.
And he gets the root. A little bit of a follow-up. And this is, it's fun because I think it's easy to forget that CycloneSpin is still one of the,
he's
still
phenomenal.
Great. And watching these guys dance toe-to-toe, Benji is another character that we haven't spoken about much this season as opposed to last season. You're looking at 2 of last season's great players, and watching them go toe-to-toe is fun.
You know, we talk about how deep the Hunter pool is, and for solo laners in North America, hold that thought.
PolarBearMike getting smoked. There's the Vulcan ultimate to follow up, and it lands on 3, but Homiefe is ultimately the one to drive it home. First blood goes to the Wolf.
And Hurriwind doesn't get picked up. Don't think the Vulcan meatball would have killed. He's maxing the backfire instead. But nice attempt, and unfortunately, again, just the shell neutralizing a lot of that damage. You can see the timers. The cooldown is longer for Shadowqs. He held it until that Vulcan ult hit, muting a lot of the damage that EnVy put out.
EnVy make an interesting call. They go and they test the Gold Fury, but they put PolarBearMike ultimate there. Why do you think they invested into that so much?
I think they were just trying to sneak it, and what happens with PolarBearMike there is he died, and it's not that big of a deal because he can get immediately back to the fight, immediately farm up. He's only level 7, so he doesn't want to fall behind, waiting and walking, you know, coming into lane, missing a ton of waves, missing farm in the jungle, and so he doesn't feel, and that tells me that EnVy's not trying to set up a gank in the next, you know, 90 seconds. Just utilize the Athena ult to make sure and keep PolarBearMike farmed up, because he has probably He's probably had the roughest 3 games.
Yeah.
I mean, Skeeledon's games haven't really been the best either, but PolarBearMike was getting picked off a lot in the first 3. And right there, again, you know, first blood.
Yeah, it's troublesome for EnVy. And, you know, I said I would hold EnVy accountable if they didn't go back and visit the Vamana. And while I still, you know, you probably should have followed up, I do want to give a nod to Denial negating that. They didn't allow EnVy to go and re-gank that lane because they brought Benji into this middle fight. They made sure to not leave Benji sort of alone, and that sort of deterred the gank.
Again, though, you know, 7 minutes in, and we've seen EnVy attempt, but they haven't been able to abuse the Ravana with the Wrath. They haven't been able to abuse the double globals, and, you know, with that first blood, Denial has been out farming them as well. It's only about a 500 gold difference, but in this team comp, EnVy really wanted to get about a 1 to 2K lead, I think, before the 10-minute mark, and it's just not going that way right now.
Yeah, just a little bit rough for EnVy, and you know, if we allow ourselves to zoom out, right? EnVy struggled against Soar, and I think a lot of people expected that. But Denial is, I think, much more even, and we're still seeing a very lopsided affair here.
Skeeledon, he actually doesn't know that Denial's looping around behind him. They just walk over the ward, so he's going to find out now. But you can see trying to stop that kill onto Hurriwind, and this is going to be an issue. PolarBearMike caught by himself again.
And Skeeledon going to come down, but is it too late? Here's the answer from Denial, and Homiefe again with the kill, 2 for the young jungler.
Oceans coming around the back. Same with Benji. And Hurriwind's going to confirm the kill onto Skeeledon, diving into the
Homie's
tower.
going.
Homiefe wants it, but he's going to get traded out by CycloneSpin's rotation over the top, over the wall. And it's going to be a 1-for-2 in Denial's favor.
Don't reach, young blood. Homiefe gets a little too over-eager.
Oh, Cyclone. Cyclone, what are you doing? The Hurriwind, what are you doing? He got the kill, but he's guaranteed dead. I mean, I don't know if that's worth, but hey, Hurriwind got a kill.
Okay.
But here's the thing. If he gets the kill, the trade out, it's probably fine, right? Shut CycloneSpin down, allow Benji to farm up. But he's guaranteed dead there 100% of the time.
Yeah.
And it's dependent on if either Envy can peel, like that's not 100% kill, but it is 100% death. Really surprising play by Hurriwind. I think he's just kind of feeling himself after that fight, but hey.
More power to him.
More power to him.
Denial now up 2 kills and not too much gold. You're still talking about a sub 1,000 lead. Here's my problem. If Hurriwind doesn't die there, do they get Gold Fury?
They could possibly, but he was he was half health and no mana, so I really don't think he would have been able to. And it really seemed like Denial wanted to reset. Envy still had a couple healthy members, so it wasn't going to be as clean as they would like. And you could see there just after the reset, doing just what Envy did, kind of okay. Hello, anyone home? Okay, you're home. All right, I'm leaving. Sorry. Yep. He's just like that. He just like opened some random doors, dude. Just like, hey, anyone here? Can I steal your stuff? Oh no, it's just an accident. Don't worry.
Yeah, just misplaced my house. I'm sorry, man.
Misplaced my house.
Misplaced my house. Just forgot about it. Kiki setting up home base here in the mid lane. He's got some friends rotating. You can see those mid harpies about to spawn. And 10 minutes in, they're still worth fighting over. So I think Denial are going to make a position here.
Kiki going this Doom Orb. We haven't really seen mid laners go Doom Orb in quite some time. Every once in a while we will see it, but that's just surprising considering how much, not only us, but Envy themselves have talked about Kiki's the support player. To not see him go, early boots, maybe a protection item and a winged blade just to stay alive and do a ton of spam damage, he's going for pure power. He really wants to make an impact to this game. Well, I think he has to, honestly.
Exactly. I mean, when you're playing Giannis, you've got an option, right? When you're playing Ra, you've got an option. When you're playing Vulcan, this character does one thing. He shoots you in the mouth. Like, there's nothing else. You can't go utility Vulcan and, like, max your meatball. Right? Like, it's just not going to work.
Hey,
so,
I play PvE Vulcan. Okay, I max the turret.
You max the turret?
The Gnaw style. It's the Gnaw.
Yeah, I remember.
He was the one. Hey, you know what? That kid got so much for his utility Giannis, the max CDR. And then 4 months after he quits, everyone is playing.
And let me tell you, I championed it. I said, "Hey, man, you've got carries across the board, and it's very reminiscent of Envy."
I agree. Where you have this kind of support style in the mid, who's really just there to set up. Yeah, he's going to be doing some damage, but just kind of play for your team, right? He had some big names on there. Zatman, Lassus,
that's what
part
I'm
of that Dignitas squad. They had the hard carries and just play like that. But I agree. I think Kiki right now, he can't be playing too supportive. We're not really seeing the 3v3 of Envy make a huge impact, and I think that's probably the biggest issue they're having is that their hard carries, like their quote unquote stars, are Cyclone and Oceans. But who's struggling the most is their core in their 3v3, getting picked off a lot. And if they had, one of their better players in one of those roles and had it directed a little bit more, I think it could have worked out for them.
Homie lurking, gonna catch PolarBearMike. No ultimate just yet. Taunt off the mark. Homie slaps him a couple of times and walks away.
So what happened there is, remember earlier when PolarBearMike was like opening the door, hey guys, what's going on? Well, this time Homiefe had the gun waiting. He's like, step into my house, see what happens there.
Yeah, we got castle laws here on the battlefield.
Got the dog out, right?
They're now going to position themselves around here, the Gold Fury here, and just sort of posture for position. Hurriwind sneaking around. Kiki.
Kiki needs to be careful. It is very clear what Denial are doing. 4 members grouped up. They are looking for a pick. We saw it there on PolarBearMike. It was only Homiefe at the time, but now Denial, they want a Gold Fury. You can tell from their playstyle right now. They're looking for a pick. They're going to take anyone who walks out, probably looking for Kiki most notably. He does have that big Vulcan ultimate where, it's such a long range. He's going to be able to contest the objective without actually having to be in, too worrisome of a spot.
The warding from Envy is very important here. You could see the Gold Fury ward just taken out, but there's a Sentry ward that Denial know about here on the left side. You're going to see PolarBearMike just pass it. But the internal ward right in the mid Harpies, I don't think Denial know about that one.
Probably not, but Honestly, we've talking about Envy and how they haven't really been playing up to, I think, what their potential is, but honestly, this is still a dead even game. This next Gold Fury is going to decide a lot about the pace.
This is a dead even game because Denial have been slow to make the move.
I mean, they have Soul, they have Nemesis, Raijin. They're looking for late game.
And there's a giant taunt coming out of PBM, and the follow-up, well, it's on the other side. Vetium seals the deal on one. Skeeledon comes down, and it looked to be aggressive, but he's on the defensive, and so is Cyclone, jumping over the wall, and Kiki's being chased by Benji.
Run. Run, Kiki, run. It's not going to be enough.
Beautiful interrupt.
And right there, not a lot of experience on the Vulcan. You could see it clearly. Great initiation from PBM. He found the taunt onto, I think, 3 players.
Yep.
They were all grouped up in a corridor. The meatball follows up, but then that ultimate, I mean, he like sent it over. Kiki fired it into the siege map. It was nowhere close. It was way far back. It was actually close to the red when Denial was all clumped up at those mid harpies. And, if that connects, right, if he can hit, 3-4 members when they're grouped up there, that could swing in Envy's way. We saw a couple members low. We saw CycloneSpin, 1v4 at the end, have to, forced to ult over the wall. But if there's a couple members that are, took a fair amount of damage from the Vulcan ultimate, he can probably clean up.
I love this. Benji willing to take the fight 3-on-1, obviously nowhere near successfully taking that blue, but Benji at this point, he's level 17. I mean, juxtaposition to Cyclone, who's 16. It's not like Benji has a giant lead, but he's playing like he has a giant lead. And that's been the difference for every step of the way. Denial, even down, they play like they have a lead. Envy have yet to play like they're on top.
Benji's also in a much better spot. You could see Kiki only level 12, Skeeledon level 14. He can get to the back line, and he's very safe as well with his build. He's gone Frostbound. He's got a ton of bonus health. He can, slow down Kiki, make it almost impossible for him to get away, and then he has Big Baby, so he's incredibly safe. Whereas we do see Cyclone jump into the back line as well, trying to make the same things happen, but it's not as big of a difference that Benji has. Benji's got 4 levels on Kiki. It was 5 a second ago, where CycloneSpin only that 2-level lead. Also just completed his second item, or his third item, the Runic Shield, which is going to be less effective than Frostbound at dealing with those backlines.
Just a rough day for Envy overall. You heard Ionic, he lost 3 in a row, and he doesn't see him breaking it, and right now they're certainly not playing like it. A lot of Smite to be played, and that Vulcan will scale nicely into the late game. However, he'll be going head-to-head against the Raijin. So.
Honestly, both comps scale. Denial scales a little bit better, but a lot of what Envy's late game is going to be is centered around Kiki. I mean, he's got to have a great Vulcan game, and it's just not working out for him so far. He's only level 13, 16 minutes into this match, and he's only had 1 death as well in a pretty close and even game. I mean, again, there was no gold separating the teams before that last fight in Gold Fury.
And you know what it is? Well, Benji's over here. PolarBearMike's going to show up, and the level 12 Athena dashes in, and Vamana pops the ult.
That's something to think
That's
about.
a win.
Just the efficiency of farming between Skeeledon and Kiki is not high. I mean, this is 3 games in a row where we're seeing them significantly below the other mid jungles, even when it wasn't that big of a difference in gold leads. And then also, Cyclone and Oceans are doing a great job of farming, where they're, matching up to their counterparts, but it's just Kiki and Skeeledon, they haven't been able to keep up the same pace.
And that's troublesome because that's the core of your team, right? The jungle mid is what they're the ones that deliver the game to your outside lanes, and unfortunately, the outside lanes just aren't being able to be, when it gets to that point in time, they're not in a position to really do much.
And now Denial have that 3K lead. They're going to be able to start to abuse it. We saw them before that last fight broke out, really group up looking for picks. Denial feel like now is the time where their composition has come online.
Exactly.
Their Soul's got 3 items. Hurriwind completed Book of Thoth. Homiefe got the Winged Blade, so he's able to chase people down. Now Benji has it as well. This is the moment that Denial feel very confident in their team fight, especially after winning the last one so handedly. Their experience lead is pretty massive. I'd actually like to see what it is. Actually, 36 isn't too bad.
Not huge.
And a lot of that is because Cyclone and Oceans have been keeping up.
And so with the Gold Fury down, honestly, I just expect Denial to just group up as 5 and push whatever they feel fit. We saw them do it earlier in the day in game number 1, where they just sort of they just sort of did it, and that's the difference. Again, that's the difference. Is Denial are making decisions, and Envy, Well, Skeeledon's going to make a decision.
And PolarBearMike, he finds the taunt, but it's only onto Shadowq. Cyclone dealing with Benji on the right side, and Skeeledon chooses to go for the Vamana there. Vamana did have to ult there, doesn't want to get knocked up, but that wasn't going to be a kill either way.
The decision-making is just not there for Skeeledon, and I'm saying this as somebody that has watched Skeeledon both in SPL games, despite even if they wind up losing, Skeely makes smart decisions a lot of the times, and I've watched him play in private and even once in a blue moon when he streams, and Skeely makes better decisions than what we're seeing today.
Again, this is a rookie team. PolarBearMike, Blink taunt does force the purification out of Hurriwind there, and I think that Blink surprised Hurriwind a little bit. They definitely would have saw it in that right-hand side fight, but didn't expect it to be used there in the mid.
West side's getting a little bit of attention for the first time all game. Vetium's going to be forced out of his pigs, and I like this play by EnVy.
Disapparate is down. And they should know that. I think they saw the timer. We could have saw the Athena loop around. I mean, that's not a free kill, but you could force Vetium out pretty easily instead. Focusing on that tower, though, nice and clean there. Shadowq trying to answer back, but he's a little bit slow. Homiefe was coming out of base as well, so Denial just off of those backs, not in a position to defend that tower.
And that's one of the first times that we've seen EnVy make the decision to do something. Meanwhile, Benji's just destroying the entirety of the right lane. But EnVy make that decision to go ahead and take the tier 1. I like to see that initiative out of EnVy, but is it too little too late? They're down 8K.
I'm really surprised that Denial haven't
6K.
rotated Benji over right now. He's absolutely huge. He's a monster. He's the most farmed player in this game. This is going to be close, though. You could see no Wrath there available for either team, and Denial really spacing that one out. Great zoning by Shadowq right now. He could get killed for this, but Denial have secured the Gold Fury.
And the Gold Fury is going to go down in the hand of Denial. Skeeledon.
He can't go in on this. No one else is in a position to follow up, so he's just going to go and try and farm. But, I mean, this Vamana being level 20, having almost a full build, waiting on the last 2 items to complete. I mean, he's, 2/3 of the way into his magical prots as well. I mean, Benji's going to be impossible to kill.
He got taunted, everything was thrown at him, and he's 75% healthy.
Really surprised that Homiefe didn't chase that one. Guess a little bit worried about overextending by himself. Denial clearly just trying to play it safe, and I do like this. Denial, I think, feel very confident. There's no need to dive right now. We're just winning this clean. We're not doing anything dumb. We're playing it safe, and they're doing a great job of that right now. Again, going back to the end of that last game when we heard Homiefe, okay, guys, what did we do wrong? I don't know if that was about a specific situation or the game as a whole, but Denial are coming into this lane trying to make 0 mistakes, and I think that's their highest priority at the moment.
And right now, they're going to take that tier 1 tower in the mid lane. That's 500 gold right in their pockets. They're up 6-2 right now, as we are 20 minutes into this one, and they've also got a healthy gold lead, 7,500 gold so far.
Again, EnVy, you could see that first dip at about 14 minutes. They had the composition that should have been looking to open up opportunities. Even a level 1 invade, they had such a strong contest against a Nemesis Vamana who don't have Wrath to confirm anything. And they just don't utilize it. And then we saw a single gank with the double globals on the right-hand side. Doesn't go their way, and that was it. They kind of just, again, they're not making plays. They're only reacting to what Denial are doing. And it is so hard to win games like that. It is almost impossible. Sure, every once in a while, Denial overextend, right? 1 in 10 games, Denial overextends, groups up. Mike hits a big taunt, and Kiki hits the Stellar Ultimate, and then they can snowball a game off of that. But that's not only going to happen 1 in 10 games. You don't want to rely on other people messing up.
EnVy have to go back to the... EnVy have to go
they have
back...
a lot to talk about.
EnVy have to go back to the start menu. And really what it comes down to for me here is they've half done it here. They were like, okay, we have tried this strategy, this specific strategy with Kiki being a support player, and then we've shifted over to this Cupid type deal. PolarBearMike caught out a little bit. Oceans will show up, and that'll send Homiefe packing. But so they've shifted Kiki into this mage, but Skeeledon has not.
Skeely's jump is down.
And ooh,
barely. Surprising dash from him aggressively onto the Bacchus there, but he does manage to get out. And really, EnVy, all they need to do is stop. They need to freeze this game as much as possible.
Yeah.
They don't want to be fighting Denial ever. They want to play it incredibly safe, and I think Denial know that too. They're going to start setting up and baiting for the Fire Giant. I mean, at this point, it's almost... I don't want to say that Denial give up the Fire Giant, but I feel like if they try and contest, Denial's just going to wipe them. We saw them play that Gold Fury to perfection, getting it very low, about 30%, and then they just stopped DPSing it. They still had aggro. You know, Shadowq tanked it up a little bit, then he jumps forward, zones out, and they're like, okay, all of EnVy just use their dashes to get away from the jump, finish off the gold. They just played it perfectly. And so, you know, if you're trying to fight them at Fire Giant, I don't expect Denial to mess up the Fire Giant. I think it's going to be the exact same thing. They know there's a Wrath on CycloneSpin. They're just baiting a fight once they do start it up.
Exactly. And when you have the lead that Denial has, it's, you know, you're welcome to bait that fight. That's what you're planning on.
Skeeledon is looping around here, and, you know, Denial don't have the words to see this. Shadowq jumps forward, off the mark.
Denial are half-hearted in this one. Hurriwind blows his ultimate, but everybody else still has it. You can tell that Denial, they didn't really want that fight. They want the speed buff.
They did burn Shell, though, and I think Blink is down as well on Athena there. And they got that purification from Kiki. So, I mean, obviously Hurriwind's ult is very impactful in team fights, but they got a couple relics out of it.
There's a nice little route coming out of the solo lane, but the chase is on down the right-hand side. Good knock-up coming out of Skeely, but it doesn't seem to be enough. He's immediately chased into the ultimate by the likes of Homiefe and Benji. PolarBearMike slams down, and that be that.
And Fire Giant here. Not even going to be attempted just yet. Good warding by EnVy. Actually like the placement. Actually, just out of range of a lot of where the typical sentries are going. But EnVy, I mean, that's a win for EnVy. They lose a purification and Kiki's going to be susceptible, but they just need to slow down the pace of this game. They need to try and farm back into it. You can see most of Denial close to hitting level 20. If they can keep this if they can keep this 7K difference, they don't even have to come back in gold. If they can just wait a little bit longer until some of their players start getting their big items online, until they catch up in experience, it's going to be okay for them at 30, 32 minutes, but I don't think Denial's going to let that happen.
No, I mean, we've seen EnVy really lose the past 3 games in under 25. Game 1 was a little bit longer of this set, but, you know, I mean, EnVy has struggled, and coming back to this, the picks, you know, Kiki has been put into this more aggressive position, but Skeeledon, I would have liked to see him balance out the equation a little bit more. Kiki's aggressive, so Skeely go Hun Bats or Thor or something more pure setup to allow Kiki to be this offensive character.
And again, on Skeeledon, he has the knockup, he has the stuns, but not a lot of players burn purification on it. And so we talked about this Athena Medusa combo, and they just don't have anyone who's going to be able to bait out those relics reliably and consistently enough to make that combo happen. Every taunt we've seen from PolarBearMike, it's been the only one in a span of 2 or 3 minutes. He just taunts, Kiki ults, does his damage, and that's it. And so there's no chance for Medusa to come in and make an impact.
Gold Fury just gets watched.
Has to be watched in there, and I think that's okay. Again, you can see Skeeledon getting a lot of pressure on the right-hand side. He's going to be able, this is really helping him catch up and farm. That gold, sure, it's worth a lot, but it's better as long as Skeeledon is getting that experience and can get his levels up.
And right now it's working out. I mean, he's 18. I guess that's a positive to look at, but I mean, everybody on EnVy, I don't mean to paint Skeeledon as the guy. EnVy has been relatively low impact, and unfortunately, the games that we've seen so far have been dictated by the jungle. And this is the first game out of 4 games that we've watched that the jungle isn't running the game.
And that's because Homiefe is not trying to do anything. I mean, Denial, we saw the graph, did nothing until 14 minutes, and that's all they wanted to do. They have this composition that's clearly better late game. EnVy gonna have to rely a lot on either Skeeledon making a big play or Oceans looping around and finding some, you know, RNG crits or big damage on the Hunter, or an ult from Kiki, whereas Denial just, you know, their comp all around is incredibly strong, and now they've overextended.
PolarBearMike here, he's gonna taunt Shadowq off of the rest of his team. There's the ultimate out of Soul. Not gonna hit much of anything. Kiki, on the other hand, getting hit all the way back home. Backfire is going to save him for the moment, but oh, the meatball.
PolarBearMike gave him up there. He didn't think he would be able to protect him. Kiki doing a great job. A taunt might have saved him, but not worth the risk. And Benji just zoning out 3. Homiefe still in the back line looking for Oceans, but actually bails out, trying to play it safe. Does get chased down. Nice kill from CycloneSpin. And actually Skeeledon here, even though he died, he bought so much time. Hurriwind and Shadowq were dealing with him.
Everybody on the map is just dealing with their own little 1v1 right now. And Denial are the ones that are coming up. Right?
Ooh, 2-man taunt there, but Cyclone's too low. Not in a position to follow up either. It's only those frontliners for EnVy that remained after that fight. And, you know, again, Skeeledon, it just came down to Benji getting pretty low there, but not able to confirm that kill, and that's that difference in experience and gold right now.
Fire Giant Denial's certainly in position for it. And they'll start it. Nobody from...
It's going to be free.
Yeah, I mean, nobody from Envy. I mean, that's
Oh,
it.
CycloneSpin. Wrath is down, and they know it. We saw him stun someone, so Denial's calling it as well. And Shadowq just going to look Cyclone in his face, force him out. And Denial right now, 9-3. Again, I mean, how many kills did Envy get against Soar?
Not too many.
Because they got 2 last game. I mean, they might have less than 10 kills in 4 games at this rate.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure what their kills were in the first sets.
And like I said, it's the problem is for EnVyUs, one, that they're not afraid, right? They're professional players, but they're seemingly timid to start the initiative, to go for the first play, to go for the first objective. And at the same time, they're also kind of just mechanically not here.
We actually saw very similar tendencies in Elevate in Noble, where their first sets, their first days, very timid, very slow. But, you know, this is the team that I wouldn't expect to follow suit. Yeah, they have Skeeledon. Maybe he could be a little bit timid. Oceans has been fine, right? Nothing bad to say about him, nothing good to say. And a lot of that has been his team hasn't really been able to keep up with Soar and with Denial.
Yeah, and I was about to say that Oceans has been receiving less flack than the rest of the players simply because of his position. I mean, Skeeledon and Kiki have to be effective from minute 1, and they just haven't been.
And now Denial starting to siege up. They have Fire Giant right now, and Envy, they're going to have to decide when to make a stand. Is it here, or is it more to Phoenix? You know, let those towers go through. There's, what, 3,500 gold in towers? That's at least it's not your entire map being cleared. At least it's not, you know, all 6 towers.
I mean, yeah, sure. Broken clock is right twice a day, right? Always got to find the sunny side of things. Shadowq going to jump into the jungle on top of 2, but ultimately take no damage. Denial still on the left side.
And CycloneSpin just trying to zone out as much as possible. That Raijin doing a little bit of poke damage, and Hurriwind's just trying to space himself appropriately. He needs to be careful because he does have Skeeledon right next to him, and he is by himself, but he's going to actually dash onto Skeeledon there. Force his ult. Kiki way off the mark.
And there's just pressure coming in from Denial. Skeely does his best, but it's just a little bit too little too late. CycloneSpin in trouble. And Benji makes sure Oceans is in even more trouble as the Vamana finds his 3rd kill of the match.
This is Denial doing a really good job both games. We see them focus less on making plays and more on making 0 mistakes. This is Denial that's come to play a clean game. No one make risky plays. Let's play our game. Let's wait until our timing windows to fight. Once we hit those timing windows, group up, bait objectives. Like they've actually been playing a really good, clean game. I almost said perfect, but it's not. It's definitely not perfect just yet. However, the mistakes are minimal.
I mean, it's textbook Smite, right? They're just doing exactly what they kind of are supposed to, and Envy just aren't dealing with it correctly. They're not able to outrange some of these abilities. They're not able to use their immunities at the right time, and they're not able to really find these initiations off of Skeeledon. Instead, it's Hurriwind that's taking players out.
Hurriwind might die, and he does get picked up by CycloneSpin, but Vetium trades out against Skeeledon. Benji forcing Kiki into his fountain. CycloneSpin, the last one remaining in the fight, and Vetium gets a double. 3-0 and 2 for him. 2 Phoenixes down. They only lose Hurriwind. Oceans has respawned, though. Knocked into the team, and body blocked Benji.
Just beautiful play.
Benji knows. Benji knows he has been a monster this set.
And he has to be, right? I mean, Homiefe has done a lot of the heavy lifting here, but
Homiefe's been quiet, all honesty, and that's what's scary to me. That's what's really scary to me about this Denial team. Now, obviously, Envy haven't been playing, you know, like Soar or like how I expect Enemy to, but the fact that they won those games so cleanly, so efficiently, without Homiefe really going off, he set up a couple, but he didn't that wasn't the all-star Alkwang Homie at DreamHack Masters. That was like, all right, I'm just doing my job.
yeah, exactly. We got to see that earlier in the day, and now it's somebody else's turn. It's Benji. And Benji, for me, has been a player. There have been a lot of players that have sort of slipped or fallen off or in a slump, whatever nice way you want to put it, aren't as good as they were yesteryear. And Benji has been sort of the poster boy for that for me. But seeing him here at LAN, I mean, the guy put up.
He's
so.
a monster. I mean, again, he was a top solo laner at Worlds Finals last year. And him and Vetium, you know, they split off from Pain Devion. They didn't want to continue playing with him. And, you know, there was a couple questions, you know, was that the right decision? Because especially after that first spring split when we saw how good the new enemy was with the 2 rookies, Panda Cat having only a single split under his belt where he won 0 games, and it was working for them. But with the addition of Hurriwind and Homiefe into this lineup, we're really starting to see Benji and Vetium, I think, show their passion and desire again and play at that high level that we know they can.
Yeah, just a breath of fresh air, right? The Double H, right? You see Homie and Hurry, and they really want to do it. And sometimes I get the vibe that that's not always the case for the guys on Denial, but seeing 2 guys that really sort of have a chip on their shoulder, Hurwin's the first one to say that. I think that breathes new life into this Denial team, and here at LAN, it certainly seems that way. We've got 3 guys to break it down. It's Hindu, it's Toli, and it's Eonic.
Well, Group D, more like group of 3, maybe even 2 after enemy play as well later on today if things keep going this way. Tolly, what's the big talking points about that game?
I think honestly, I'm looking at the soul lanes here. We saw Benji just go off on the Amaterasu and the last game specifically on the Vamana, where there was no early game aggression coming out of CycloneSpin. He builds these early game aggressive gods like the Bellona, like the Ravana, and he has no support from support or the jungle side. So as a result, the late game presence out of Benji is just too much for Envy to handle.
Yeah, I think was one of the biggest things is just how easy Benji was just allowed to get to that stage.
Yeah, he definitely was able to get a lot of free farm and not really punished for picking the weaker matchups, I would say. And he is and has always been a very, very good team fighting solo laner, and he really showed that off this set.
Yeah, very, very dangerous from there. And we did see the Vulcan for Kiki in the mid lane here up against Hurriwind's Raijin. Hurriwind had a pretty consistent game there. There was nothing too special or flashy from the boys of Denial, but Hurriwind got his ult off at the right time and didn't get picked too often.
Not at all, and I like the pickup from the Raijin, trying to really focus fire that first pick Athena with the Nemesis combo, so that was really smart coming out of Denial to do that strategy. And on top of that, the Hurriwind versus the Vulcan matchup, we saw how well Hurriwind was able to dodge this Vulcan ultimate and then go back later on into the team fight to find the cleanup kill. So just great play from Hurriwind.
Yeah, just realized he could just go more and more aggressive from there. He seems a bit more confident in Eonic.
Yeah, he did seem a bit more confident and definitely more comfortable, I would say. So coming into this second LAN, he's definitely looked much better, I would say.
It cleaned up the issues that he had for the most part in that first time we saw him at the DreamHack. So Denial looked about as... Did Denial look as strong as we thought they would, totally, coming into this group so far, just off that back of that game against Envy?
I would say they're just as strong as we're expecting them to come into this right now, taking advantage of EnVyUs that's been struggling a little bit, whereas Denial has been really consistent throughout the whole online phase.
We can see the kills overall in that game, 4 to 14, I should say, and 7 assists to 31. Obviously, Denial ran away with that game yet again. Eonic, are you surprised by Denial, or is this what you expected out of them?
Not entirely surprised, but I think they did a good job of waiting for Envy to make mistakes. Not necessarily doing all the right plays at the right time, but taking advantage of Envy's misplays, I would say.
And if anything, there, Tolly, I mean, Envy had a better early game composition for themselves, and that's kind of what Denial had to do. They weren't expected to win the early game, I guess, but they found themselves ahead, but still had to wait to get through that early game.
Absolutely. I just think that the 3v3 was a little bit stronger between the Bacchus, Nemesis, and Raijin combination, and EnVyUs, they couldn't really deal with that kind of pressure.
Well, very interesting performance from those guys. We do, though, however, have an interview standing by. Aggro is joining Shadowq right about now to talk us through that game.
Shadow, thanks for joining us. You heard the analyst talk there about your 3v3 composition with Homie and Hurriwind. Talk about those two joining the team, coming into the split. How did it change your team dynamic?
Homie was on the team before, so we definitely had experience playing with him, but picking up a new mid 2v2 is like completely changing to the team dynamic. The mid 2v2 controls almost the entire game. They decide if you're going for buff invades, if you're playing defensive, if you're giving up something. So playing with them just kind of changed the whole way the team worked.
Well, the team's working pretty well right now, and for you, this is your first PC LAN since launch tournament, I believe. That's the last time you played in a PC LAN. How does it feel to be back here on the LAN stage with your team?
Feels good, man.
feels good, man.
I'm pretty excited to be back.
Awesome. Well, talk to me about your team performance so far. I mean, only one set in, up against Envy, but got the 2-0 that you guys want to keep yourselves in contention for those top 2 spots. How would you assess those games right now?
Sora is probably going to be our biggest opponent here at the LAN. But beating Envy is obviously good for us. We were pretty happy about the wins.
Do you think that Sora's going to be your biggest competition, or is it Enemy? Do you expect they're going to come back and perform well on LAN like they have before?
That's hard to say because we haven't really scrimmed them for such a long time because we knew that they were going to be in our group. So that's really hard to say at this point. I guess we'll have to see after the next set of games.
All right, well, we will have to see. And the next set is going to be a really, really good one, guys. Sora versus Enemy. It's going to be awesome to watch. Make sure you stick around. We'll bring it to you right after this break.